Yeah, no, it's fabulous. Are you doing the fermented vegetable juice into the broth every morning as well?
Yeah, and aloe vera elixir and everything.
Yeah, yeah. Be careful with the aloe vera, but because originally you only need the uh, fermented sauerkraut juice
Yeah,
because you need the vitamin C.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and also another thing is if you cook up liver and freeze it in ice cube trays. Drop a cube of liver in to increase your into your broths to increase your vitamin content.
Okay, that sounds a bit far stretched for me, but my
Yeah,
old
you'll find
vegetarian
that
mind.
if you cook the liver up and blend it and then freeze it in
Yeah,
ice cube tray,
yeah,
and you just pop when you're cooking up your big broth, your broth for the day or whatever, you just put a cube or two in. And if you look at it, because what Dr. Natasha realized is that you need vitamin A and vitamin D for healing the gut. Yeah, so you need to do the fermented cod liver oil, which is your vitamin A, vitamin D. But also, she advocates putting liver in. And basically, the total bone broth one is only for those who have diarrhea,
yeah,
to stop the diarrhea.
yeah.
Those who don't have diarrhea don't have to do the bone broth as such other than to drink it, but they are also allowed to have non-starchy vegetable stews with all the seeds cut out. So, for instance, if you're using a baby marrow, you cut the seeds out and the skin it off. And that's the way she starts with people with very bad diarrhea, for instance.
Okay.
But for cancer, of course, cancer cleaning, as we've seen, it works very well to do the bone broth fast. What I found with my husband is I put in a cup of watercress, sort of blended watercress in with his stew, because watercress has got a whole lot of vitamins and minerals, and it's never going to push up your blood sugars, because
Yeah.
it's a cup of it is 0.36 of a gram of carbs, so it's never going to affect your blood sugar.
So you blend the watercress and put that into the broth.
Yeah, that's what I did with my husband for cancer. Yeah,
Okay.
it can be done with the GAPS as well, because of course GAPS is also healing. It's basically to get the vitamin content up more and to alkalinize it, etc. I just found that he did better on the latter half after he had that little bit of a nosedive. I tended to do that.
Okay. Now that's something I wanted to ask because I've been stepping a little bit away because I smelled how the bone broth smells, and it smells pretty intense, whereas the chicken
Yes.
broth is rather pleasing, and also the
Yes.
taste. So
Yeah.
the bone broth would be definitely a lot more healing because it has a lot more mineral content than the chicken broth, right?
Yes, to a certain extent, especially with the marrow off the marrow bones.
Yes.
Yeah, but lamb is not as strong as beef, and people who've been vegetarian or vegan or whatever find a lot of problem with the meat broth if they don't start on the chicken broth first.
Yeah.
And of course, you can also do,
I belong to that category. I have to
Yeah,
hold my
so
nose when I drink it because it puts me off.
yeah, no, it is. What you do is you introduce it slowly. With children, of course, GAPS children or GAPS people tend to not want to eat what's good for them because, of course, the bad bacteria is dictating what it wants to eat. So what you do is you bribe them into having just 1 teaspoon at a time. And you introduce it slowly, just a teaspoon at a time. And that way the body will adapt and start craving it eventually.
Would it be possible, because I have now 2 of those slow cookers, to make one and one chicken and use them half-half or mix them?
You can do that, no problem at all. No
Okay,
problem at
because
all.
I put the
Yeah.
bone broth outside on the balcony because inside it didn't really smell nice. So I put that
Yeah.
outside. and
Yeah.
but then I could mix those two, and I'm going to consider the liver. I remember I was talking to Charlotte Gerson, and she was talking very intensely about the liver extract, how important it
Yeah.
is, and that it's one of the most important elements of the Gerson diet to actually get the liver
Yeah.
restored and working.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you see, with gaps as well, the liver is very important. Dr. Natasha insists on people having liver. And of course, if you can't get organic, then your best bet is lamb's liver, because they haven't managed to put them on feedlots, thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah. We have a very nice organic butcher. We get everything fresh and organic and clean. But yeah, that's
Okay, good.
definitely lamb is the cleanest of all meats.
Yes, and you can use lamb bones for your broth, which you might find a lot easier than beef.
Okay.
It's got a lot nicer smell, and it tastes a lot nicer. And it's also, you see, the problem with cancer is that you've got the bovine growth factor in beef. So
Yeah.
for cancer patients, bovine is not the best.
No. That's why normally it says you shouldn't eat any red meats.
Yes, and it doesn't have the bovine growth factor. And of course, pork you can use as well, if you want to go that route. And another one we use is game. We get a lot of deer here. So we use the deer as well, the
Okay.
deer meat and the deer bones. So that's what we use. But of course, you can also use fish, cold water fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, of course...
Fish soup is certainly not my thing.
No, I can't face it, but my husband loves it, thank goodness. So I do. He has the fish soup. I can't do the fish soup, I must admit. After working on the fishing boats for 3 years and living with that smell in my hands, I just don't do fish.
No, I agree with you. It's something
Yeah.
that we need also, if you don't enjoy your meal, if you don't enjoy what you do, then this whole thing becomes a drag. I realize a lot of people, when you talk about diet, certainly like you said, all our foods that make us sick are the ones that we crave. But it's also when you lose all the joy in life, when you lose all that, sparkle. And a lot of people have food as the center of their daily program. They look forward to their meals. And if that's gone
right.
and you just have that broth to drink, that's not really sparkling.
No, but you can make it different. Okay, for gaps you're not allowed spices initially, but you can certainly put herbs in.
Yeah.
Right? And you can put fresh herbs in to make it taste different and taste nice and vary it.
Yeah.
For my husband with cancer, of course, I put in all the spices, especially cumin and pepper, of course, So he'd have a curry broth, and he'd have a Chinese 5-spice broth, and he'd have a herbal broth, just to give him variety while he was doing it.
Yeah. And
so
now
we'd use the different... Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, let's just talk about the length of doing it, because I remember you wrote to me in your email that it's a 2-year program, and I know it's my 2 weeks actually were planned not as a full-on healing diet. They were more like to reduce all my inflammation so that afterwards I can go onto my food exclusion diet. When all my inflammation markers have come down, then I would start eating different foods to check out how my body reacts to them. So I was not planning to do that for 2 years, but could you elaborate what you did with your husband? Because I believe a lot of our listeners would be interested. How long would you do that, and how intense? How much other food would he eat parallel?
Well, basically with gaps, you do the introductory. And if I suspect people have got food intolerances, which is 90% of them, not only do we not include this stuff, but I also suggest that they do the introductory stage for 2 weeks. And after that, they start introducing as per Dr. Natasha's recommendation. And one of the first things she introduces is egg yolk. And after 2 weeks, your inflammation would be down. And then once you introduce the egg yolk, if you get a reaction, then you know you can't introduce it. But a lot of the time, the gut is healed to the point where it actually finds the egg yolk nourishing. Because once you've healed the walls of the gut, and the food is no longer going into the body, you don't get the immune reaction, unless, of course, you're a celiac.
Yeah.
So if you don't get the immune reaction, then you don't have a problem with the food. It's only because the gut is leaking that it goes in and then causes this reaction.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you did GAPS for 2 weeks and then started introducing the things, she also does fermented kefir and yogurt and introduces that. Now, and ghee, for instance, I can't do ghee because I seem to have the antibody for the butyric acid as well as the casein.
Yeah. I
So
react to
the
dairy so massively, I wouldn't be able to either.
Yeah, so I just don't even bother with dairy either. So ghee for you would not be an option. But for instance, I can't introduce coconut oil yet because I had too much time in the islands on the boats eating coconut. So coconut is one of my baddies. But yeah, it's not for everybody. So you can introduce things like coconut oil.
I think it's very nice to say that here. It's really like when you eat something for a long period of time and you eat it intensely, your body starts to get that sensitivity. It's like you've oversaturated and your body screams no more.
Yeah, well, if you go back again to your basics, in the old days, everybody only ate what was in season. So your body had a break from it.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons we have that intolerance nowadays is because everybody eats everything all the time. And that's why a rotational diet is actually a very good thing to do, because and you can do GAPS rotational if you want to.
Yeah.
I do a GAPS rotational.
That's actually one of the things that I already realized now at my 3 days, that it's something that you would like to repeat regularly and to come back because it's extremely soothing. Like I never had that kind of a flat and, how do you call it? Yeah, non-hurting stomach. And that's very nice.
Yes, no, it is. It's phenomenal. It really makes a massive difference. People tend to get stuck onto one protocol. Like the Gerson protocol or the Budwig protocol or this or whatever. And I see that you can actually adapt for each person. I'm very much a person who believes in the a person has to eat according to what their body needs. Now, when, of course, they're full of intolerances like I was, I thought my body needed chocolate all the time. Yeah, and cake and things like this,
Tiramisu.
Which is what you call it. Yeah, well, no, not tiramisu. One thing I've never done is drink alcohol. I've always hated it, fortunately.
Oh.
But, yeah, it's... Once you can get your body back into balance, and what people don't realize is their taste buds change in 2 weeks. So if you can eat a substance for 2 weeks, your taste buds will actually get adapted to it, and they'll actually start liking it. For instance, my husband also used to, like me, eat chocolates. I mean, our big thing was to go out to dinner and have a nice ice cream, chocolate, whatever, so the whole lot, all the trimmings and puddings and and we've got a thing called Cook Sisters, which is basically pastry deep fried and soaked in sugar syrup. So yeah, how carcinogenic can you get? Yeah, but and now he cannot take anything sweet. He does not like anything sweet. And I can't eat a very sweet thing either. I mean, I used to eat on average 6 slabs of chocolate a day. I mean, 100-gram slabs of chocolate a day.
Wow.
And I'd never feel ill.
Okay.
I'd never feel ill. Now, if I eat more than a square or two, I can start feeling nauseous. Because my whole body has adapted. And that is the gluten-free, dairy-free, raw cacao chocolate, So, yeah, it's quite interesting. I just can't do that sweet anymore. It just...
Yeah, I realized I've come down from my sweet tooth as well. I lost now altogether something like 30 kilos. That's 60 pounds. And I feel amazing. Yeah. I'm back surfing and swimming and ocean and things that I couldn't do for a long period of time because I was just too heavy. And I'm really enjoying it. So it's good. And I haven't actually eaten less. I eat more, but I eat just different.
That's it. Yeah, this is the way. It's a case of pig out and get thin. This is what I found. Because I had osteoarthritis in my knees. I couldn't walk 100 meters without wanting to cry. I couldn't hold a book with my hands. And then I went on this diet while we crossed the ocean and everything. So I couldn't get exercise in the middle of the ocean. And I still lost this 40 kilos without trying. And then what really did it for my husband is when we went on a 4-hour hike through the island of St. Lucia, through the rainforest. And I could climb up all these mountains without any problem in my knees whatsoever. And that just converted him instantly. And when I went back to South Africa after 18 months, my doctor said to me, "But Mimi, your fingers aren't even nobbled anymore."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and I haven't seen it. I will get a twinge if accidentally I have something that I shouldn't.
I have had the most horrendous experience when I went into one of those nice cafes and they had those juices, those glasses, freshly squeezed cold pressed juices. And I drank one of them and it tasted delicious. And on the way home, I couldn't remember where home was. I lost my route. I couldn't think. I couldn't remember the phone number. I was like brain dead. There was almond milk in it. And almonds full on react with me. I tell you what, I was 2 days sitting in front of my computer. I want to open the email. What did I want to write? I couldn't remember. I was sitting there like completely knocked out. And that's how people live.
Yeah. I have a similar things to cashews, of course, which were my favorite. Almonds were never my favorite, so I can eat those. But cashews and coconut, I go into such a depression. I just go so depressed I can just about jump over the side,
Don't eat them, we need you.
No, well, this is it, so and it's very interesting, but I want to actually write a book about this thing, because I've developed quite a few nice, lovely recipes which combine the gaps with the ketogenic, with the alkaline, and the raw, because all of those have a room to play.
Yeah.
So I've got some quite
exactly
fabulous recipes.